hello, and let's take a deep breath. Give ourselves a pat on the back because we are right here, right now for a reason. Welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where together we are going to empower ourselves and others to live life with more passion and purpose. How you doing, Mr. Jared?
I'm fantastic, Ali. I love the gold chain. What are you representing there, my man?
Oh, just stopped by Taste of Fort Collins, and they had some beads if you grabbed the beer, so I had to get the gold to match my official dab tester shirt. Just been getting a lot of compliments today. Apparently, a lot of Fort Collins knows what dabs are, so it's been a fun weekend to say the least.
Is that a shock to you that Fort Collins knows about dabs?
You know, I guess it's not a shock, but I didn't expect so many younger people there since it's summer. I guess there's still a lot of CSU students that stick around.
Yeah, it's a very young and vibrant community, so it doesn't surprise me at all. I'm excited for what we're going to talk about today. This has been a topic that Ali has really wanted us to explore for a while. So I think our listeners are in for a treat, and it should be some entertainment and probably some surprises, to be honest. But before we jump into that, I really want to say thank you to everybody that's been listening, that's sending in their homework, that's DMing us, that's coming up to us in person. It's truly humbling and an honor to be part of your journey as you seek the most purpose in this game we call life.
Amen to that. Extremely grateful, and I'm just so moved by some of the emails that come in. Those are awesome. So we can't harp on that enough. Is really the differentiator of our podcast is having that practice, that purposeful practice. So let's get that in and keep growing together. You want to start us off, Jared, or you want me to get this rolling?
No, I want you to kick it off. This has been near and dear to your heart, so I'm ready to see where we go with this one, my friend.
All right. On Purposers, we are going to speak about religion and spirituality tonight. I was very surprised because recently, I think it was just a few weeks ago, Jared and I realized that we've never really talked about that with each other, about what our beliefs are. I think I've shared a little bit, obviously, with Ramadan and stuff, but I thought it'd be a really good opportunity for us to dive into that because that's a great question, right? Why are we here? What is this life about? What happens after this life? And there's so much, especially in today's day and age, so many different judgments in the way that we look at religion, spirituality. So I want to ask you, Jared, what were you taught about religion and spirituality growing up?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that my brother kept biting kids at the daycare at churches, so we were always kicked out, so we weren't allowed in church most of my young childhood. So my mom read the Bible to us a little bit. We did some at-home Bible studies, but I was taught more by my grandma, who was a much more spiritual being, very in tune with nature and just being a good, honorable person than any kind of religious organized class. So I bet in my life I've probably been inside a church less than 20 times. But I would say that I'm extremely spiritual. And I think most people that follow me or that interact with me would be kind of surprised at that as you were. And I believe there's a greater purpose for all of us. And I just kind of look for it on my own.
Yeah.
What about you? So here's something that's interesting for me is, Ali, is going through Ramadan, which we all kind of witnessed for the last month with you. Has that been kind of your foundation for beliefs your whole life?
It has for the only reason is because my father was really the one who made Islam the primary religion that we were going to follow, right? My mom's family was Catholic, but it was, so my upbringing was definitely more like, hey, this is the Quran, this is Islam, this is what's right and you need to follow it, even though it wasn't always you go to the mosque every Friday, and I had a lot of Christian and Catholic influence too. Before I jump into mine though, Jared, I wanted to ask you said something, spirituality, that you do consider yourself a very spiritual person. what does that mean exactly? What do you do to be spiritual if you don't go to church and read the Bible and stuff?
Yeah, I think for me, my spirituality comes from really exploring who you are as a person and what you have to offer the world, and how can I make others around me better, and how can I help them achieve their true goals. Um, I meditate, I journal. I think we've talked about that a lot. I would say my spirituality is just really more internal and to exploring exactly who I am and what am I supposed to be doing here. Because I think we all have a purpose and we all play a role in the world. And for me, I guess I go more internal than looking external is kind of how I would see the difference between myself and many people.
I gotcha. Yeah, with the whole rise of meditation and yoga and spirituality, I think that we're seeing a shift in people's spiritual practices not being so deeply rooted in religion and more about what you're speaking of. Energy that you can feel. Meditation, you can feel that in different types of belief systems. So that's really interesting. I'll share. Go ahead.
Let me jump in real quick, Ollie, just to expand on it. And I think for me it works because I get to be my spiritual best. I get to explore myself, and whatever I find for me, I don't spend any time trying to prove that you are wrong and what you believe. And I think that's why you're seeing so many people kind of navigate towards this more spiritual world, because a lot of our organized religions spend so much time trying to prove each other wrong that it's divisive. And, you and I can't associate because we have different beliefs here or that. And man, it's, I guess where I'm at in life is a short journey here. And I believe I have a great purpose to impact people. And if I'm always with one group or another and I'm not free to be who I am, then I just think I minimize that. So for me, I like that freedom.
Do you think that in society today that it is more about that freedom, or do you think that it's still heavy judgment about what people's religious or spiritual beliefs are?
I think a lot, and this is going to sound tough, and I know I have some friends that are pretty religious that listen to this. I hope they don't take it wrong, but a lot of times, man, religion just alienates people. Like my sister's gay. There's certain religions, no matter how much she believed in what they were saying, that she could never be part of, and I have a hard time with that. I struggle with that, and us, we were a family that could have used religion as kids. Like we were wild kids. We didn't have much money. We were a family from the wrong side of the tracks, and we got kicked out of churches and my brother's behavior was bad all the time. And to me, I'm like, man, that's probably somebody they should have invested more time in.
Right. Yeah, it's unfortunate that there's a lot of cases where we can see how it's been divisive, right? The whole LGBT community. Unfortunately, there's not much tolerance for LGBT in most of our global modern religions, right? Judaism, Islam, Christianity. However, there are a lot of great things to be said about religion and religious organizations. I think that the purpose of the religion, whether it was God or a bunch of rich men 2,000 years ago who put together these texts, whatever you want to believe, I think that it's potentially all for the same purpose, and that's to have a guideline. Because at the end of the day, we are human beings. We are animals, right? The most advanced, smartest animal in the world, but we still are animals. We have instincts and desires. So without these moral codes, someone pissed you off and didn't teach you anything, you just kill them, right? Like you're aroused, you're just gonna go have sex with something, and not, you're gonna be gluttonous. You're gonna eat everything. You're not gonna have any type of standard. So I believe that the purpose is the great thing, but somewhere along the way we allowed it, like you're saying, to get divisive and focused way too much on like, oh, you're wrong, and not really focusing on what the main point is.
Right, which is to what? Be a good person. Like literally all these rules are designed to help you become a good person. And I think one of the religion is critically important in the framework of our society. I 100% agree with that because it was one of the earliest ways to share information and to share stories and to learn from what other people had done that maybe you had never met, you had never been in their circle, but you could learn from their story. And I think today we have so much information at our fingertips. And if I want to meditate, I can Google on meditation. I want guided meditation. I can talk to somebody and let them guide me through meditation. I can access a lot of that same information on my terms now and frame it for myself instead of getting it framed for me. I think is why a lot of people are intrigued and moving towards more spiritual guidance instead of just a hard, fast, this is my religious beliefs and everything else has to be wrong.
Yeah. And you hit on something too about the whole LGBT thing that you know, your sister and I have very close family members as well who have come out, and in our family on both sides it's not accepted in the religion, right? To where it's still a secret amongst some people, and they don't feel welcome, right? They don't feel welcome in the religion. I mean, why are you going to fast 30 days Ramadan and do all this sacrifice for a religion that says you're not a human being, right? That you are, that this is the devil's work and you're possessed when, so, I mean, I've really diving deep into LGBT and really have just tried to understand those people more, and hearing a gay man or a gay woman describe their journey, right? So many times I've just really felt like there's no way that's a choice, right? We're all born on a spectrum. I like to use this analogy that anywhere fat on the body is gross, right? Like, oh, like that's fat. We don't like it for whatever reason. If I see a nice breast or a nice ass, I'm just like, oh, you know, just like automatically, like I'm wired that way, right? I'm wired that way. I can't help it. I can't tell you why I like what a sack of fat with a nipple on it, right? It is to where I'm attracted to that. I can't. It's not a choice for me, right? So I can only imagine how that would feel if you're like, hey, this isn't my fault. Like, this is just what I'm attracted to, and now you're telling me I'm unholy, like I'm not a human being. Like, F those religions is probably how most of the LGBT community feels. And I would guess, I don't know the statistics, but I would guess that LGBT is a very spiritual community that probably does meditation a lot, that does a lot of these alternative types of practices and works that are still spiritual, but maybe not religious.
Dude, let me ask you this, and here's kind of one of my struggles.
Okay.
I love my sister, right? She's one of the best people I know. I have other friends that are gay, both men and women. They're all great people.
Mm-hmm.
How do we not know that whatever writing that was made thousands of years ago that said being gay was wrong, how do we know that wasn't wrong?
We don't.
Right, and so that's my whole point. Like, when is the last time an organized religion has come out and been like, hey, guys, sorry about that. We were wrong on this. We've done some research, and it's not true. Right? We're all growing. We're all moving. Like, we've all made mistakes. I struggle when people are such hardliners that because this was written way back when it was written, there can be no interpretation. This just has to still be the fact. When I tell you there are many good people that, and like, why can't you talk? Why the things you can't talk about your dinner table are what? Politics, religion, and money. Why is that? Because it always alienates somebody, and that's why I go the way I go, because my spirituality should not alienate anybody. The fact that I see purpose and giving and helping others get better, and I see growth when I look internal on how can I be a better person based on what I was yesterday and what I hope to be tomorrow, are very tangible things that I know for a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't offend anybody else. It's inclusionary. I can spend it with whoever I want, gay, straight, black, white, yellow. It doesn't matter. I'm allowed to be who I can be at my best. And that is, you know, I think going back and looking at my life, you know, and preparing for this one, my grandma was the exact same way. She was the best woman I ever met. And she never went to church, but you wouldn't find a better person because she practiced being a good person every day. And I think it's somewhat hypocritical at times that people I know that aren't good people, that are selfish and stealing and always manipulating to get themselves ahead, are some of the ones I know go to church the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is what you make of it, right? That, like with everything, because there are churches. I've been to churches that are, and again, to your point, to back up a second, for sure. How do we not know on these texts, right? How many different versions of the Bible do we have? How many different texts are in the Vatican? How much? I mean, there's countless, even religions before Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. Like, why aren't those right? There's so much out there to where I think whatever happened to structure to what the world's leading religions are today is because at the end of the day, you feel included and you feel like you're a part of something bigger than yourself and that you're doing more, right? So that's why so many churches can be successful, and there are fantastic churches and mosques and synagogues and everything out there to where you go and you feel something similar to any group that you really enjoy. The camaraderie, people coming together for a common cause, helping each other grow. Oh, it just so happens we're reading stories out of this book, and that we're claiming is the book of God, whatever. And I think that there's so much information out there that we as humans felt we needed to bind. And I got this from an amazing book called, A Brief History of Humankind. I forgot the author, but I'll double check and we can put it in the description. But this author, the man is extremely intelligent. He's one of the smartest minds in the world, and he goes really in depth into all these religions and says that unfortunately history does not support the idea of God, right? We needed to create, as civilizations, we needed to create religions that are so powerful with the punishment, right? Hell. If you kill, cheat, steal, if you're a bad person, you're going to hell for eternity, you're going to burn and all this stuff, instead of being like, oh, hey, you messed up, let's talk about it. Why? Because that isn't as powerful. So us as humans, it makes sense. Let's say, if, playing devil's advocate, if we are the ones who created religion, it makes sense that it would have to be so powerful and binding and have these gigantic concepts like heaven and hell. So just some food for thought. Kind of went off on a tangent on that one, but it is very difficult to have completely blind faith. And in my opinion, I feel very fortunate to have grown up with two parents who were very faithful in different religions, because that forced me not to just blindly follow one without question.
So how do you balance that? So, and I don't know this, right? Where does your business, is there any conflict between your business beliefs and your religion? And how, if there is, how do you navigate that?
I mean, 100%. And Jared, honestly, I don't claim a religion, right? I don't say I am a Muslim or I am a Christian. I practice Ramadan. It's an amazing tradition, just so happens to be out of the Islamic religion. But frankly, I still smoke cannabis in the evening, right? You're not supposed to smoke cannabis at all in the religion. You're not supposed to drink alcohol. But honestly, same thing with the Christian, right? It's like how we've now learned to kind of pick and choose religion, right? And like you say, the people who are typically the most immersed in the religious organizations are the most judgmental, because they're trying to tell you that, hey, you need to follow every single thing in this. You can't eat shellfish. You can't do this. Like, you can't everything, to where I have now really built my own relationship with God and decided that I seek truth in everything, in every human, in every text that I can read. I feel that God or divine energy or the source, whatever you want to call it, the universe, that it's bigger than just this one entity in the sky, big gray bearded man called God, or however you want to envision that.
Right.
That there's something more that we probably can't even comprehend it, much less have it all laid out in a book. So yeah, to answer your question, to balance it, I do use religious texts, and I continue to use a both, religion and spirituality. When I pray, I don't know what or who I'm praying to exactly, right? So I say, thank you, God, thank you, Lord, thank you, universe. Those are the terms that I use. But I give thanks. I put that energy out there. I put all the good practices from what I learn into practice and just kind of hope for the best.
And now, how do you balance then? Because your family is divided and split amongst religious beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that play out for you as a kid, and how did that kind of help shape how you're using it today?
So I remember a moment my dad, when he was first teaching me, I was either 5 or 6 years old, and he said, hey, my mom's side is Mexican Catholic. He said, hey, you know your mom and your abuelita and your abuelito and all them are going to hell, right? And I was like, wait, what? Like, even as a 5 and 6 year old, I was like, no way God would do that. Because, I learned hell's the worst place you ever want to go, and God is so merciful and all this. So from a very young age, I always challenged religion. It was like, okay, this there's no way that this is true and this is not, right? Because to follow one is basically denying almost everything in the other one. Even though the Quran and the Bible are literally almost the exact same concepts, the only one difference, the primary disagreement is, oh, Jesus is not the Son of God, the Muslims say, because to say that is implying God is a human and he can impregnate a woman and blah, blah, and God is this whole different entity. And Muslims, believe it or not, think that Jesus is an amazing prophet who's still coming back to save the universe. Like, Jesus is the most quoted prophet in the Quran, even over Muhammad, but they're just like, no, he wasn't the Son of God, right? Like, it's like, that's the biggest argument, right? And it's like, why does that even matter? Well, why are we talking about these concepts that we can't prove? So that's kind of what I've grown up with my entire life. And finally, after being starting my own business and being led to things that may not agree with every single line verbatim with Quran or Christianity, I've realized that, hey, like, I have to live and I have to do my best knowing what I know and continue to just try to live my best life.
Yeah, and I think if we boil it all down, the intent of every religion is to give people structure and hope that there's something bigger out there for them when in the times of despair, and then to also kind of guide them to being good people.
Exactly.
And I think I find that in my circle and through my practices and what I do every day. And I've never honestly felt the need to belong to a large church because maybe I've just been fortunate. I have those people around me that fulfill that within me and kind of keep me guided and balanced where I want to head.
For you as a coach and as a having a long career with a police officer and as a police officer and having multiple networks as a family man, what do you think the world needs more of to make it a better place? Is it religion or is it spirituality? What in that realm, what does the world need more of?
Yeah, I think it's sad. We need more love, man, period. We need to love ourselves. That means our faults, our flaws, the things, our mistakes, our past, our journey. I mean, how many times have we talked about this, not just in our podcast, but on classes or in our blogs and stuff, that the most important relationship is always the one you have with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where I struggle with this topic a little bit is, to me, a lot of people go external, right? Religion can for many be another external place to look for all the things that really can only be fixed in you. So to me, man, we just need more love. We need to love each other, love ourselves. And if I love you, man, I'm a little more tolerant of your mistakes. I'm a little more graceful in allowing somebody to make a mistake, but not hold that against them for the rest of their life. And I think for me, that's where, and that's a tough topic, right? Because love, you're soft, you're a wuss, you're kind of a wimp. And I'll be like, dude, I'll smash you up. Like, I will punch you in the nose right now. But that's what I truly believe is if we had more just love, wherever you find that, it's a much better world.
Yeah, that's the ego talking, right? When someone talks shit, I'll smash you up, kind of thing, to where it's hard to pierce through that, um, because we have a lot of ego, we have a lot of hate and unconditional love. I agree. I mean, that's a universal religion that you can identify regardless of language, race, right? Like we all feel when someone's showing love, whether it's in a small way or in a big way.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me ask, so how many organized religions or groups that practice under some kind of quasi-religion, instead of practicing love, even though they may talk about it, they practice exclusionary. Right? They only want to love people that believe exactly what they believe, exactly the same time they believe it, and there's really no room for everybody else. And I just think there's too much information out there nowadays. People are too smart. We can get information at our fingertips to kind of fact check and look. It's crazy for me to think that we're all going to just fall in these little categories of organized religions and stay separated. I think you're going to see more of a trend of kind of what we do, where we're like, hey, I kind of believe this, I believe a little bit of that, and this works for me. I think you're going to see a lot more blending of religion and spirituality, kind of like you do in the medicine world, right? You're starting to see a lot more blend of traditional medicine, like regular doctors and prescriptions worth more natural remedies, and trying that whole person approach. I think you're going to see that with the balance between organized religion and spirituality as well.
Yeah, I like that analogy, because we're definitely having a lot of breakthroughs too, just with the power of the mind, people self-healing, and really the power of the placebo effect is insane too. That's a great book to check out.
Right, and I think people are tired. Honestly, I'm tired of it. It has to be one or the other. You can't use essential oils and herbs and minerals and tinctures because you go to the doctor, and you can't go to the doctor and get prescriptions if you're using this. No, I can do both, right? Like, there's a place for both that in my world. Just like religion, like I believe in God, there has to be something more powerful than me. Now, which form of that? I mean, we could debate that, but I know, like, I can believe in something bigger than me, but also practice exploring myself and being spiritual in a manner that I don't have to exclude anybody from automatically being part of my circle.
Right. Like, why can't we all go to the church and sing hallelujah in the Christian church, and then also all go hang out at the mosque and do the cool up and down bow prayers and learn about that, right? But that doesn't happen. That would be so cool. I've always wondered how it would be taking friends, and very few friends, just when I was closer, like, to the mosque, because it's awesome. When everyone's all lined up and it's orchestrated, and there's a moment when everyone says amen, and when they're reading El Fatiha, it's like, Wala Dalin, Amin, and it like vibrates the whole mosque, and it's dope. Like, all of the mosques around the world are beautifully built and have this just amazing architecture, and it's just so inclusive of only Muslims. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, if there was a Christian person to come in, they would be welcome, but it would be like trying to convert them, right? To where it would be really cool to see more of just like more openness and just exercising love. Like, this is what we do. If you don't believe it, that's cool. But we love our differences too. So I couldn't agree more, Jared. I think that's a great answer. I did want to ask you though, with religion, what do you think happens after we die? Do you believe in a heaven or hell for eternity, reincarnation? I mean, what do you think?
Man, I have no idea. And I think that's like, honestly, that's probably what I feel about most religion. I have no idea if any of these stories are true. I have no idea what happens next. And I'm not going to sit and spend a shit ton of time preparing for it, right? I'm literally going to make the most of today. And if I'm a good person today, and I do good things for others out of the goodness of my heart, and I work hard, I take care of my family, I'll be rewarded no matter what happens in the future. but I'm not. I see too many people sit back and think like, well, I'll deal with that down the road because if I say 7 Hail Marys and a couple Hallelujahs, whatever the case may be, I can repent my sins and all's forgiven. I don't necessarily know that I agree with that. Like, I think, can we all be forgiven? Sure. But I have to be forgiven. I have to quit doing whatever I needed forgiving for. And I think too many people live their day-to-day life taking advantage of people, being greedy, putting themselves, they're selfish, and they have this idea that, that they're still being a good person. And I think, man, I just want to be a good person, and then when I pass, I'll figure out where I go from there. Or God will figure it out. You know what I mean? It's not my job to figure out what's next. But if I could be reincarnated, I want to be a dolphin or an eagle.
A dolphin, huh? Eagle would be cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind being a dolphin, too. They're kind of like the protectors of the sea.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I wouldn't want to spend that much time doing that, though. I'd rather just be another human.
Dude, I would love to be a human again and be able to do this game over again. Be like, dude, I already did this. Like, I got to make this decision differently.
Right?
Yeah.
Would you ever be a woman?
Oh, dude, that sounds awful. Awful, bro. I have 3, I have a wife and 2 daughters. Man, and I watch what they go through. I'm like, Trey and I are lucky to be boys. You?
Who knows? Maybe you've been a woman in your past life and you don't even know it.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. What do you think?
I've had beliefs change over time. I've always thought that there was something like a heaven and hell, right? Because of growing up with Catholicism and Islam, and now I don't really feel that way. I definitely don't think that there's a hell to where like you just burn in hell for eternity. Maybe like a pretty awesome place like a heaven, but I've been in the realm of spirituality, right? There's a lot of people that claim to be clairvoyant, that they can talk to spirits, that there's connection with people after they die, and in that realm, it does seem like there is opportunity for reincarnations, and there have been stories about people who have claimed that they were a person in the past life. Like I remember one of the creepiest ones I ever saw was this little boy was telling his parents, like randomly, like, yeah, I was a black woman and I died in Chicago or something. And they're like, what the hell are you talking about, right? Like freaking out. And then they looked and he knew like the date and everything. And he's like, yeah, like he knew the story and was talking to my daughter, blah, blah. And they found like that article or whatever from the year that he stated, like all this stuff. And it was like a whole news thing on it. It was crazy. It gave me goosebumps. And of course, there's always skeptics, right? Like, oh, that was staged and Illuminati and who knows what else. What I'm saying is that's definitely potential because there's a lot of that going on out there. There's a lot of people who are doing this type of work and speaking with spirits and getting energy and getting signs and telling people things that there's no way they are supposed to know. That happens. That happens. So I don't know either, right? I think that you said it really well, and that I think inherently we know that we would just be better off if we're good people, right? We're all humans. Everyone has a dark side, and everyone has urges sometimes to do what you're not supposed to do. But at the end of the day, I think when we are led in the right direction, when we have the right people around us, that we want to be good, that we want to love, and that we want to help others for the most part.
Yeah, and I think too many people use religion as a crutch to not be who they're supposed to be, or to excuse their behavior because they're searching for this or that. And I think we all know better. Like, right from wrong, and it doesn't matter what book I look at that has to tell me if it's this set of rules or that set of rules. I know when I'm disappointing on myself. I know when I'm disappointing others. I know when I'm not being a good person. And to me, that's more important than what you believe.
Yeah.
Like, how do you act?
Yeah, no, that's big time. People do use religion as this excuse to not really be their full authentic self.
I think so, and I think, like, quite honestly, why you wanted to do this podcast or this episode so much was, I think there's an idea that police officers are overwhelmingly like pretty conservative Christian, going to church. This is what they believe, and I think you'd be shocked that many are just like me. Because I'll be honest with you, I've seen, as a policeman, you see some of the worst in human behavior, and I can tell you that I've had more times than I want to count where it was done by a position or a person in a position of trust, using the cloak of whatever trust they've earned from people, whether it was religion, coaching, teaching, counseling. They've used that position to take advantage of them and cause great harm to another human. And it kind of, honestly, it makes you question things a little bit. You know, you look at the Catholic Church, their doctrine is some of the oldest religious doctrine known to man. Yet we had priests molesting boys for how long before anybody thought they should tell? Dude, you knew that was wrong the whole time. Like, there's never been a time that was right. So why did covering up to save the face of that religion supersede being a good person?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I know that's a small sample. There's many, many good Catholics out there that would never do that. But for me, it's just another reason why I believe what I believe and why I practice the way I practice.
Right, and there it is again of the divisiveness. Right, it's not the religion, it's the person. It's the person. It's that priest. It's that terrorist bomber who's claiming to be a Muslim. Right. It's those people who really ruin it for everyone else who are good practicing Christians, Muslims, whatever religion, and we get fed that negative media to then where people think, oh well, they deserved it, right? I heard a guy, my friend was telling me a story. He works at Men's Warehouse. He was telling me about one of his an employee of his that just a couple weeks ago was talking about a recent mosque shooting, and just kind of casually said like, oh well, they deserved it. They deserved it because he's just misinformed. He truly believes that anyone who is a Muslim person wants to kill Christians and what's this and that, and it's because of that divisive nature of religion. It's because of us arguing on the stuff that doesn't matter and not, like you're saying, being open about it and having those conversations. So it is it can be very divisive, but at the end of the day, I think that again, it's all on you. It's you were the one responsible for taking these books and letting. Are you going to be influenced by that specific group that may be a little bit too much in using the book as an excuse to hate, right? To hate others. If there's anything, if hate is ever in the equation, it's probably not right, or you're probably not looking at it right.
Yeah, I agree. There's not one of those books that talks about hating other people, but yet,
so if bust in your house trying to kill you, then yeah, you can handle it. But other than that, I've never seen anything in the Bible or the Quran that talks about you can hate others or kill people or anything. Except the only other thing is LGBT, right? That if you are that person, then you need to be. And I'm not sure, but I know that it's like you should be stoned or whatever it is, to where. There you go. That's there are some things that we can really disagree with.
Yeah, but I think going back to like what you said earlier, between primarily right now Christianity and Islam, there's nowhere in either of them, to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Ali, that says one is supposed to hate the other.
No.
Yet, right now there are people on both sides that believe that's exactly what they're supposed to do. That all Muslims are evil, or all Christians are evil, and one has to exterminate the other. And let's look at what's been going on in the Middle East forever.
It's crazy.
I have a hard time believing that we can't rise up as a human species and solve that, so the little boys and girls of that region can have prosperous lives and not continue to live the lives of their parents and grandparents based off of beliefs that are archaic and not even foundationally, fundamentally true anymore.
Yeah, I think that we're doing a good job. I really do. I think that we are really progressing, and that there is a lot more love out there, and that we can turn on the news and let the media dictate our perspective of what's going on. But frankly, fortunately, when I walk outside in beautiful Fort Collins, when I'm doing my thing, genuinely the people that I surround myself with are high percentage of them are all great, loving, good people. And again, everybody has a dark side. Everybody, even the best people in the world, Jesus Christ, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, probably did some fucked up shit for no reason. Actually, I know they did. I know they did for no reason, because they're human. We're all human. We're gonna mess up. We're gonna do bad things sometimes, but it's our job to just correct it, instead of, because somebody did something bad, because someone messed up, castrate them and think that they are not worthy of being a human being. So I think for our listeners, that this is some really important and deeply charged homework, because it is important to know that you're conducting your life in a way that is not just because your parents told you this book says you should conduct it like this.
Yeah, I think it's important for our listeners. And keep in mind, some of you may completely disagree with us, and that is totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's important that what we hit on initially is that relationship with yourself is still your most important relationship. And explore, okay, what is it I believe, and why do I believe that? Right? And move past just believing stuff because others have told you to believe it, or you're not sure why you believe it, but like really looking at what is it you believe in and what are you practicing.
Yeah, and we're all worthy of love. I think that it's easy for us to find these enemies, but at the end of the day, we're all human, and I think that in order to get there, we're gonna have to realize that everyone's worthy of love. I mean, and no matter what they did, even the worst of the worst, like even the ones that made mistakes, right? The Catholic priest, the murderer, the rapist, they were all human beings at some point that had good intentions. They just made horrible, horrible decisions. That doesn't mean that they still aren't worthy of love. Okay, yeah, maybe we need to lock them up for life, or whatever it is. They have to have their consequences, but every single human being is worthy of love.
Well, and most importantly, you're worthy of your own love.
Yep.
Right? You're worthy of accepting your mistakes and realizing you don't have to be perfect. You didn't have to be perfect yesterday. You don't have to be perfect today. But you have to be able to love yourself and allow yourself to forgive and continue to move forward. I think a lot of that is grounded in what external beliefs do you have? Are you strictly regimented and certain scriptures, which there's nothing wrong with that? But if so, then you got, maybe practice forgiveness a little more. Are you more spiritual? Well, then you're a little more open to certain things like that, but maybe you might need a little more structure on finding purpose. I think there's a good balance of both in our worlds, and I think, to me, that's what I would like for our listeners to really look at is, identify what do they believe and how does it support them or how does it hinder them?
Yeah, well, I think that's perfect timing to get into the homework for this episode. And we want our listeners, the purposeful practice that we are going to have for this episode is to write a paragraph. Take some time and write a paragraph about what you believe about religion and spirituality. Are you a Christian, a Muslim, a Buddhist? Are you agnostic? What do you think happens after life, right? Like, write a paragraph about what you really believe, and be honest with yourself. Nobody else is going to read that if you don't want it to, unless you send it in, which I hope you do. But you can ask us not to share. But it would be really healthy if you're honest with yourself about that paragraph. And then part 2, do you feel your beliefs, do they empower your life or do they disempower your life? and report back to us. We know this is a charged practice, so if there's any reason you don't want it shared, let us know in the email.
Yeah, and like we talked about through the course of this podcast, and our purpose is that we're learning more about ourselves along the way. And I'll tell you, spending time this week with my family at my grandpa's funeral, it really dawned on me that a lot of the basis of my spirituality was founded by my grandma and her beliefs and the way she practiced and the way she treated us, and what a great person she was. So quite honestly, without Ali wanting to do this podcast, specifically this episode, and without researching and preparing for it, I probably would have completely missed the impact my grandmother had in this area of my life that I had never paid attention to.
Nice. That's cool that you came to that realization for this episode.
Yeah, so it's awesome. So, team, remember, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. So we value you being part of our tribe and continuing on this journey with us. Please share the episodes if you're getting anything from them, and I know you are because you're reaching out to us. So please make sure you're sharing those with your friends. Give us some ratings on iTunes. Let the world know we're coming for them. I don't know if you've seen it yet, boys, but when you do On Purpose podcast, we are on the first page of iTunes now.
Yeah.
Big ups, because when we first started, you had to scroll about 8 pages to find us. We're on page 1 now. And we're coming for that top spot because what we're doing is very important and needed right now.
Amen.
And that's
coming up.
Yeah, sorry, Ali. Stay tuned, team. We are going to have our first On Purpose workshop that Ali and I are working out the details on. We're excited to announce that. That's going to be a 4-hour hands-on deep dive into helping you create your most purposeful life, in which you will leave with a blueprint and an accountability sheet to get yourself there. And we couldn't be more excited to take this from the podcast to live in-person events, and we think that's going to be a very big move for us in the future.
Cannot wait. I'm excited for my own blueprint.
Yeah.
It'll be awesome.
And that's the thing, guys. We are in the trenches with you. We are working this right alongside of you. So, again, no excuses. Let's go. We got short time on this earth. I don't know what you believe, where you go afterwards, but you ain't getting out of this game alive. So let's live it with some purpose. Have a great week, everybody.
This has been the On Purpose podcast. If you'd like to follow up on this week's action items or give your feedback, please reach us by email, which is in the description below. If you would like to keep up with Jared or Ali, check out their Instagram accounts, both of which are in the description below. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you all next week.